Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here at Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, and we're live in Washington, D.C. Today, we've got the latest on the Trump administration, including Elon Musk attacks the White House's latest initiative on AI. That and other stories on the way, but first, the headlines. A new wildfire erupts near Los Angeles, California, engulfing nearly 10,000 acres and forcing more than 30,000 people to evacuate. This as firefighters finally managed to bring two other major fires under control. Russia says there's nothing new in President Donald Trump's latest remarks on the Ukraine conflict. Their comments come after the president warned of new sanctions and tariffs if Moscow doesn't end its three-year-long offensive against Kyiv. The Israeli military kills two Palestinian militants in the West Bank, accusing them of killing three Israeli citizens earlier this month. Israel ramps up operations in the West Bank while the ceasefire in Gaza still continues to hold. Nigeria approves a 50% increase in tariffs for its mobile telephone and data subscribers as the country grapples with one of the worst cost of living crises in decades. And more than 1,000 same-sex couples register for weddings across Thailand as the country becomes the first in Southeast Asia to legalize same-sex marriages. We begin in the United States, where President Donald Trump on Wednesday unveiled a $500 billion plan to boost artificial intelligence infrastructure in the country. The project will be funded by Stargate, a joint venture of OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and MGX.
Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
With an initial investment of $100 billion, Stargate aims to build data centers and power generation facilities for AI development in the next 4 years.
The data centers are actually under construction. The first of them are under construction in Texas. Each building's 500,000 square feet. There are 10 buildings currently being built, but that will expand to 20 and other locations beyond the Abilene location, which is our first location.
On top of that, we have the technology partner NVIDIA, and of course Microsoft has been very, very supportive to SAM and continue to support all our success. This is not just for business. As Larry said, this will help people's life. This will help solving many, many issues, difficult things that otherwise we could not have solved with the power of AI.
However, the goodwill of President Trump's ambitious plan didn't even last 24 hours. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, a close Trump advisor who wasn't present at the White House, mocked the project online. Casting doubts on Stargate's funding, Musk said the companies don't actually have the funds for it. The SpaceX CEO also launched a series of attacks on his friend-turned-foe Sam Altman, whose company he founded but is now currently suing. Hours later, Altman clapped back, inviting Musk to visit the first data center in Texas already under construction. The OpenAI CEO also hoped that while Stargate won't be optimal for Elon Musk companies, as a head of the Department of Government Efficiency, Musk will put America first. Notably, the world's richest man started his own rival AI firm, xAI, last year, which is building its own data center in Tennessee. Musk believes he faces unfair competition from OpenAI and its biggest investor, Microsoft, which supplies huge computer resources used to build AI systems like ChatGPT. And the SpaceX CEO's role in the federal cost-cutting watchdog has also raised questions about conflict of interest, as his firms already hold billions of dollars in government contracts. Meanwhile, the latest online spat between Musk and Altman underscored some of the tensions that could dominate Donald Trump's second term. The tech billionaire certainly has a lot of influence in the Trump administration, which recently became evident with the sudden exit of Vivek Ramaswamy from Doge. And now Musk's public disappointment over President Trump's endorsement of Stargate is only exposing an early internal rift within the White House. And now moving to South America, in a televised address, Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro congratulated President Donald Trump on Wednesday. Maduro promised to work with the American president and his administration on issues including migration and regional security. The Venezuelan leader, whose re-election remains contentious, said he would take back any Venezuelan nationals that would be deported by the Trump administration.
It's important that migrants know that when they return to Venezuela, they recover many things. Respect as human beings, but also their right to come and party with their families, their friends. How much does a migrant suffer over there in Chicago, in New York, when they see their friends partying over here and they are suffering over there? I always say, my dear migrant brothers and sisters, Venezuela is waiting for you. Venezuela is a blessed land and everyone will return so we can be happy in this land, working, producing, and hugging each other. And you will also have back the most sacred right, the right to party.
Now, Maduro's statement comes just 2 days after the Customs and Border Protection announced that the CBP One app would no longer allow asylum seekers to book appointments to enter the United States. In fact, tens of thousands of appointments scheduled for February have now been canceled, with a large number of them being from Venezuelan asylum seekers. And since 2023, more than 7 million Venezuelans have left their country fearing persecution under the Maduro regime and have made their way to the United States. They're now stranded in Mexico and refusing to go back to Venezuela, claiming they will either be put in jail or worse, handed a death sentence.
My plan A is to wait for a new app or application to come out so I can enter legally. I don't want to enter the U.S. illegally because it is not right. There are legal processes we must follow thoroughly to enter legally. Meanwhile, I'll keep on working in Mexico to sustain myself.
We only ask for an opportunity for those who already have an appointment. We need a transit permit to continue fighting from there. It's a hard trip. We had to go through the jungle, were robbed, and went through so many things to get this answer. I think it's unfair.
Now, it must also be noted that a day before Maduro's statement, India's Foreign Minister Jaishankar agreed to work with the Trump administration to take back illegal Indian migrants.
In terms of the reference you made, Yashwant, to the irregular migration, yes, we had a discussion on a range of issues, and one of the issues which came up was actually mobility of people. Now, we have a position on mobility which is a principal position, applies to all countries. As a government, we obviously are very much supportive of legal mobility because we do believe in a global workplace. We want Indian talent and Indian skills to have the maximum opportunity at a global level. At the same time, we are also very firmly opposed to illegal mobility and illegal migration, because you also know that when something illegal happens, many other illegal activities get joined onto it. And it's not, this is not desirable, it's certainly not reputationally good.
Meanwhile, Congress recently passed the Riley Act in an early win for the president's plan to carry out mass deportations. The bill, named after the Georgia nursing resident murdered last year by a Venezuelan man, will allow the Department of Homeland Security to arrest migrants if they're charged with certain criminal offenses like rape and murder. The Riley bill is named after a woman whom President Trump often invoked during his campaign, and it now goes to the White House for the president's signature, making it one of the first legislative wins for the Republican. And shifting focus to Europe, a knife attack sent shockwaves across Germany on Wednesday when 2 people, including a toddler, were killed. Police have arrested a 28-year-old man from Afghanistan for deliberately attacking a kindergarten group in a park with a kitchen knife. Authorities say 3 people were also injured in the stabbing incident and are now receiving treatment in a hospital.
according to what we know so far. A 28-year-old Afghan suspects suddenly and deliberately attacked a child in a kindergarten group that was traveling there with his kitchen knife. 2 people were killed in this attack, one of them a 2-year-old boy of Moroccan descent. The second person killed was a 41-year-old German passerby who happened to be at the scene of the crime. Other people, including another child, were injured, some of them seriously. The child is a 2-year-old Syrian girl.
Bei der zweiten getöteten Person handelt es sich
Now, officials have revealed the suspect, who is also a migrant, had a history of violent behavior and is undergoing psychiatric treatment. In fact, he was due to return to Afghanistan last month after his asylum claim was rejected.
A first search of his room, where he was accommodated in the Asylum Seeker Center, did not reveal any evidence of a radical Islamist attitude, but only medication which was found there that could fit his psychiatric treatment.
The latest incident took place a month after a Saudi doctor was arrested for ramming his car into a Christmas market in the city of Magdeburg, killing 6 and injuring 200. The back-to-back violent attacks in Germany have once again sparked concerns over security and migration ahead of the parliamentary elections on February 23rd. Now, following the knife attack on Wednesday, hundreds of residents gathered to mourn the victims and protest against illegal immigration in Germany.
My wish list is, I'm only speaking for myself now, this is my subjective opinion. My wish list would be that we have a proper deportation policy, that people who are obliged to leave the country also leave this country. Today's perpetrator was also required to leave the country, and it is slowly becoming difficult to justify that to people. Mr. Herman traveled to the scene of the crime today, so I couldn't let the meeting take place there. It's very nice that he's here, but he may have forgotten who opened the door to hell in 2015.
Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said he was tired of violent attacks by perpetrators who came to Germany to find protection. His unusually strong remarks marked a clear shift in his rhetoric on migration ahead of the election. And Alice Weidel, the chancellor candidate for the far-right Alternative for Germany party, wasted no time calling for a policy of mass deportations. One of Weidel's core election messages is that crime is linked to migration and that the ruling government has failed to maintain public safety. Now, it's worth noting that opinion polls show center-right Christian Democratic Union leading, with the AfD party in second place, surpassing Scholz's Social Democratic Party of Germany. And now moving to China, where dissenters of Xi Jinping and his government are being taken away to hospitals. Several reports suggest that China is forcefully admitting protesters to the psych ward and declaring them mentally unstable. The dissenters are being treated for bipolar disorder and schizophrenia without even showing any tangible symptoms. The treatment includes heavy medications that impair brain activity along with electric shocks. What the Chinese government calls treatment has all the signs of torture, and it's only increasing, not decreasing, the dissent. Our next report has more.
If you are a resident in Xi Jinping's China, then your life is an in-person experience of George Orwell's famous book, 1984, where the big brother was always watching. China in 2025 has some similar traits. China keeps its eyes on all its residents, whether they like it or not, because they don't have a choice. China has the highest CCTV cameras per capita in the world. With at least 700 million cameras installed in the country, that's 1 camera for every 2 citizens. Everyone's lives and behavior are monitored constantly. It is also the only country in the world that has a social credit score. Praise Xi Jinping and your rating grows. Jump a red light and your rating drops. And you don't even dare question the big brother, because protesting against Xi Jinping is a one-way ticket to the psych ward. China wants to do away with its image of a brutal regime. For years, the bloodstains of protesters at the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre tainted Beijing's standing. But protests haven't stopped, they've just gotten smaller. and China has realized that sending tanks and trained soldiers to gun down dissenters may not be the most welcome strategy. So now China has a secret weapon, and Xi Jinping is using it with impunity. Several reports suggest that China has begun sending protesters to hospitals by declaring them mentally ill and unstable. Anyone found protesting or dissenting is rounded up by the Chinese police and taken to the nearest hospital. The protesters are then admitted to psychiatric wards and are treated for mental disorders and schizophrenia, even if they don't have any real symptoms. Some of the deliberate and forceful treatments of detained protesters include antipsychotic drugs that are used to treat bipolar disorder and impair brain activity. Then there is electroconvulsive therapy, where the protesters are often tied to beds and electric shocks are passed through the body. What is being dubbed as treatment is nothing short of torture. So who are these protesters that are being treated for mental illnesses? Reports say most of them are students who are protesting against government policies. This includes on-campus sit-ins or even jokes and memes about Xi Jinping and his administration. Some dissenters include factory workers who demand better working hours and wages. And more often than not, it is the family members of the protesters who snitch to the police about their loved ones' rebellious acts. Well, it looks like the big brother has smaller brothers who are always watching.
And a once-in-a-lifetime winter storm has descended upon the unprepared Gulf Coast of the United States. With temperatures plummeting to below freezing and snow blanketing cities and beaches alike, the storm has already claimed at least 9 lives and left millions stranded in its wake. Authorities are urging residents to stay indoors as whiteout conditions, icy roads, and hazardous travel make survival the primary concern. For a region unaccustomed to such extreme weather, the brutal storm is more than just a rare occurrence. Our final report has the latest on the deep freeze that's gripping the region.
In a haunting twist of fate, a deadly once-in-a-generation winter storm has descended upon the underprepared Gulf Coast of the United States. Frigid temperatures and unexpected snowfall have turned the region into a winter wonderland and a nightmare for many. From the French Quarter of New Orleans to the beaches of Alabama, scenes of heavy snow falling in areas have shocked residents. At least 9 people have been confirmed dead, with more feared to have succumbed to the cold. Officials in Austin, Texas have opened investigations into 2 suspected cold-related fatalities. In Georgia, a tragic hypothermia-related death has been confirmed. But perhaps the most harrowing tragedy struck in Texas's Zavala County, where 5 lives were lost in a horrific vehicle accident caused by icy roads in the morning. The snowfall has broken multiple records, with places like the Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport witnessing an unprecedented 8 inches of snow. A far cry from the previous record of just 2.7 inches set in 1963. Florida has also broken its all-time snowfall record, with 5.5 inches recorded in Molino. Meanwhile, Mobile, Alabama saw over 5 inches of snow, breaking a 143-year-old record for the city. The National Weather Service has issued its first ever blizzard warning. For parts of southern Louisiana and eastern Texas, a stark reminder of the storm's ferocity. Whiteout conditions have caused widespread travel chaos, with roads impassable in many areas. Interstate 10, a major thoroughfare along the Gulf Coast, has been paralyzed by snow and ice, leaving commuters stranded. At least 2,300 flights have been cancelled across the southern US, further adding to the widespread disruption.
Since the 70s, this is really the first snow of this magnitude we've seen. So that's been 50 years now. So certainly most people in Houston have never seen a snow like this, even though there was one in 1973 on par. When you go over to Louisiana, Florida Panhandle, virtually everyone there has never seen a snow this hard. So by virtue of this, we don't have a lot of data to say, well, you know, these once a century or once in a generation events are happening more often because they only happen once a century or once a generation, right?
The storm has led to states of emergency being declared in Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi. Schools, government offices, and airports have been shut down for safety. Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia issued a stark warning, advising residents to stay off the roads due to the treacherous conditions, especially with the potential for sudden snowfalls. The storm's forceful impact has left much of the south paralyzed. A record-breaking amount of snow continues to fall as freezing temperatures linger, making travel and daily life nearly impossible. For those still on the roads, state troopers have responded to more than 50 weather-related incidents.
But the thing is, underneath that snow is ice. And if you try to put your vehicle on this road, it's going to get dangerous quickly. There's a reason why first responders said that they're not going, or it's going to take them a lot longer to respond to just the day-to-day calls. They're still doing the life or death calls, but they can't put the big fire trucks on these. You can't drive fast. You can't get anywhere quickly. So that's why we're telling people to stay off the roads.
In Louisiana, snow accumulations of up to 6 inches have already been recorded. Certain areas like Rain saw as much as 10.5 inches before noon. Meanwhile, airports across the south remain closed, with flight cancellations adding to the growing sense of fear and chaos. As the storm continues to wreak havoc across the region, the full extent of its damage remains to be seen. Emergency services, already overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the disaster, are bracing for further tragedy.
That's our show for today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you right back here once again tomorrow. Thanks everyone again for watching.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12